Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lizzie, and for today's video we are talking about final exam. So before I get into the review for this film, for my subscribers, just kind of want to give you guys a little bit of an update. I had posted this on Patreon a while ago, so they kind of got it first, but the reason why I haven't really posted much lately here or on there, which I know I'm horrible about kind of posting on a schedule anyway, but why I really haven't been posting is because I got injured at work. So for those who know or don't, I work in vet med. I'm a vet assistant, and I was bit by a dog. I'm okay. I just needed, this is my right arm, and I needed some stitches, and so I really couldn't do a whole lot. It still hurts a little bit, so I'm healing, but made it very hard to be able to edit or really do much of anything. So just, there's that little life update, but let's go ahead and get into the movie. So this is a slasher thriller from 1981, which I believe I watched on Paramount Plus. I will try to remember specifically where I watched it, but I'm pretty sure I watched it on there, and it looked very interesting. If you don't know, obviously I love slasher films. I'm actually wearing a shirt that says I heart 80s slashers, so very topical for this video. But the movie itself takes place on a college campus, and it focuses on this group of students who are at the end of their year final exams. So there's only like a small kind of group of students left on campus who are finishing their exam, and as the film continues, it gets like less and less people, and in the midst of all the kind of craziness of everything of their final exams, this killer shows up, which we have this opening scene of a couple being killed. It's very much reminds me of kind of the Zodiac Killer or The Town That Dreaded Sundown opening, where you have this couple in a car and they're like making out when they're attacked, and then we flash forward to some of our main characters talking about this kill that took place on another college's campus, and the fact that this has happened on other previous college campuses as well. And then we're hit with something in pretty early on in the film, pretty much right after that conversation, which is something that I feel like could never, like definitely would never happen in a film now. Like if they were to, for some weird, they were to like remake this film or something, this scene could not happen. And I will say, like, trigger warning if you do watch this movie for school shootings, because there is a scene where this van that looks very similar to the van that we see of the killer pulls up, and a group of masked people get out and just start shooting, and then start grabbing the bodies of these students that they've shot, and they end up taking off. One of the characters, who comes to be a main character, Radish, he ends up calling the local sheriff, it's a very small town, and being like, hey, like, this is what is happening, like, these people showed up. Then we find out that it was actually all a prank done by this fraternity, and it was just all a bunch of BS, and it is just like, watching it, I was like, that is nuts. Like, again, very 80s, like something that would never pass in a film today, especially in America. But yeah, I was just like, I can't believe that just happened in this film. Definitely expecting some pretty craziness out of this film at that point, but honestly, after that point, it pretty much slows down, and unfortunately, the majority of the rest of the film felt like a 80s frat movie. Like, we are following these characters who are part of this fraternity. There's this one character who's trying to pledge seems to be like the only pledge. And of course we watch like him be like put through it and tortured by these fraternity brothers, and then their relationships with these girls. And like there's a side plot where one of the girls is having an affair with the teacher, and it's just, yeah, a lot of it, most of the rest of the film just feels like an 80s fraternity film, and I, in all honesty, was like so bored with it. It wasn't until the last like 20 or so minutes that things start to pick up, that our killer really like shows up on the campus, and he just slowly starts like, and then he just like quickly, one right after another, starts taking people out. And then our character Radish, of course, who really like, he's kind of the only likable character in this film. He is like our true crime junkie before there was like true crime junkies, and he kind of, you know, he's the one that called the police initially because he thought that that was really happening, and he's kind of the only sane person in this group of people that are like, oh, life is doodly doodly doo, and he's like, no, there are crazy people out there in the world, which makes him a little suspicious, but luckily, spoiler, he's not. And so he ends up calling the police again, who at this point don't believe him because he's already called once, and they're like, oh, well, we'll check on you all in the morning. And he's like, no, like, I'm being serious. There is a killer here. There are bodies. And of course, he ends up, police don't show up. He ends up getting killed off. We have our main final girl who is running from building to building of this college campus, which again, like, just a dumb horror movie character moment, because she keeps going from like big building to big building, knocking on doors, like nobody's there, nobody, and she'll knock on like every door down a hallway. I'm like, if there were people there, they would have let you in at this point. And we have this killer who's very kind of Michael Myers style, where he's just walking very slowly and somehow managing to catch up with her. She battles him. This other character from earlier shows up and tries to fight the guy, ends up getting killed. She, of course, ends up fighting him off. She ends up throwing him over this like stairway railing, and he plummets far down. But of course, not quite dead yet, so she stabs him a bunch. But, and then it cuts to, she's walking out the building and she sits, and then that's just how it ends, and there's no reasoning behind it. There's no like reason for this killer. They don't do like you know, sometimes like horror films will do like a text overlay to like explain something. Nothing like that. They don't really do. It's just some crazy guy that decided to kill some kids on campus, and she defeats him. And I was just unfortunately really down because, again, it was just so slow throughout the majority of it. Again, I felt like I was watching a fraternity movie until the last 20 minutes, and then just the fact that it just ends, which I understand maybe is supposed to be like the scary concept that there's no reason for it, he just did, but I just was unsatisfied and not happy. And honestly, the majority of these characters were not likable. These frat guys sucked. They obviously like torture other characters, and then at one point we actually see them go like into their frat house, and they have a Confederate flag, and they have this very, very racist statue, kind of those old, not really even that old statues where it's like a very dark skinned character with big lips, and that I was just like, okay, not, again, this is an 80s movie, I get it, but it's not great. So just not likable characters that get killed off. Even our kind of main protagonist, our final girl, she's okay, but she's just, I don't know, she's very like, her roommate's like gorgeous and uses that to her advantage. And she doesn't necessarily shame her at all, which I think was great, but she does just have like pity party oh poor me vibes, and she acts like she's like this ugly girl who's really not. Like, she's still a pretty skinny white girl. Like, it's just, I don't know, it was a little ridiculous, and yeah, just was unfortunately let down by this film that I was actually quite looking forward to. So that's just my thoughts on it. If you have seen this movie, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. If you did enjoy this little quick review, please do give it a big old thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for horror and spooky related content. And before I go, a quick shout out to my Patrons. Thank you so much for helping to contribute to the channel. If you know the perks of being Patreon, links are in the description below, along with all of my social media. And I will see you all again later with another video.